top winners. Now, coming up next will be a dragster. Can that be right, Brett Kepner?
Well, Ted, even you yourself have to admit it's crossed your mind. What would it look like? What would it feel like? What would it sound like if you could somehow hook up an alcohol-burning, supercharged dragster to the sled? You're going to get a chance here tonight to see at the ATPA event here in Pennsylvania, because Bob Zundell, one of PA's finest, is himself going to take a ride in this incredible thing, the canned heat dragster that indeed was one of the very first of this unique type of exhibition vehicle created almost, three-quarters of a decade ago now. Now, you started out in
84. We started building the dragsters.
And that was a huge departure from what you were used to, because you were one of the hardcore tractor guys.
Yeah, we started running, United States Hot Rod come to me and said, we need 10 two-wheel drive, short wheelbase trucks. And we built them. They gave us a month to build them. There's 8 the first show up in Pontiac. And then from that, they started, when we needed more exhibition vehicles. They wanted more different things. Right. And then several of these got built. There were 3 of these and 2 funny cars. In fact, Mike has the pulling track here. He had a funny car.
That's right. Mike Hoff was one of the first ones to get into the short wheelbase cars. Now, Bob Bauman from Pennsylvania originally ran this one. How did you stumble into it?
Well, Bob was getting out. He wanted to quit, and he put it up for sale, and I bought it. And made a lot of fighting at home, but I bought it, and we run it 2 years, and then they quit using them. Right. I think we quit using them because we got a little too dangerous with them.
Well, they were squirrely vehicles. I mean, let's face it, something with this long a wheelbase and the engine all the way in the back, if it was meant to wheel stand, they always did that.
Yeah, we run indoors, 30-foot wide track, 2 of them, side by side, and whoever's leading go out the door to the other end. The other guy would have to stop.
Now, what kind of a ride is this thing from the driver's standpoint compared to your more traditional tractors, or even, for that matter, the two-wheel drive trucks?
This thing will beat you up. It really beats you up.
Well, Bob Zundell wants to get beat up right now as he's going to back that dragster up. They pull everything here at the Buck, Tom.
That's right, and in fact, he got beat up in that truck in New Jersey yesterday on making an exhibition run. So glad to have him here at the Buck this evening. Looks like he's leaning out a little bit there, but he still made a good run. Bob Zundell with the dragster.
All the way down, a full pull on the exhibition run for Bob Zundell. When we come back, the wild two-wheel drive trucks. Don't miss it. Under the lights at the Buck at the Jasper Pulling Series just outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You're watching the Lucas Oil Eastern Nationals as we're ready to start a new class, one of my favorite classes, and here's one of my favorite drivers. These are the two-wheel drives, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is Tricky Dick McPherson.
Always one to watch, and years ago, he pulled here at the Buck. He's won this event before, so let's see what Tricky Dick's got up his sleeve here tonight.
That vehicle, by the way, is a 23T, almost a dinosaur. They'll stop building those in ATPA. We'll talk about that more later.
And Ted, this track is so good, it actually stops the rear tires. It chokes him out. He didn't have enough horsepower to keep pulling the sled.
Next up, Rich Sandiford in the Valco truck, which reminds me it's time for the Valco Tech Talk. Here's Brett Kepner.
What's the most common engine building mistake out there? Well, according to the editors of Circle Track magazine, it's the improper or excessive use of silicon gasket sealers. Now, let's face it, everybody uses them, and you need them in just about every conceivable area of the engine. But whether it's using too much or not an even application of the product, that's where the Valco team came in with probably their best-known product. It's called the Tube Grip. Now, let's face it, if you're using a tube of gasket sealer, you're going to end up with a bottle that looks like this, or worse. And there is no question you are not going to be able to get every ounce of the product out of the tube. Well, one thing's for sure, the Tube Grip has solved all that and is now one of the most seriously needed tools in the industry. By using an offset ratio, the Tube Grip can actually make sure that indeed every single aspect of the product inside the tube is used, and more importantly, it keeps at all times the back of the tube from blowing out. This thing can actually produce 4.5 pounds of pressure at any given time, and will stay that way all the way to the end of the tube. You don't think we mean the end of the tube? Take a look at that. That's how much you can get out of it, sometimes more than 2/3 more than what you were getting previously. The Tube Grip is a neat little idea, but one thing's for sure, it's become an invaluable one. Everybody's using them.
Thank you very much, Brett. Hey, that thing would work great for toothpaste, especially with my wife. Just for fun, let's let Rich Sandiford pull.
Well, Ted, Rich just got off his first win last week at the Bluegrass Nationals in Brandenburg, Kentucky. Picked up his first win of the season.
Sandiford, very good pull, 286.6 feet. Let's go back and look at that one more time because it wasn't exactly straight, Tom.
It wasn't exactly straight, but right now, Ted, he is the new leader. But look at that front end bouncing and dangling and just hopping around. Rich is getting a heck of a ride. It just reminds you of the dragster, Ted. He's getting bounced around a lot.
What a job. Ends up high in the air, but here comes the other 23T. This is Dick McPherson's son, Jeff. And as we were explaining to you, these 23Ts are going to be going away from ATPA competition. Now, if you had one originally, you can still run it, but no new ones can be built.
As many wins as father Dick McPherson has had, Jeff has yet to win an ATPA event. He's hoping tonight all that will change. And Ted, we've got a new leader, 296.20.
Oh, less than 4 feet short from a full pull. Now, that may be the number to beat, but here comes Jim Lyons, the guy we met a little earlier that has the 2-truck team with stitches.
I asked Jim what was more exciting, to run one of his 10-second drag cars that he runs in modified eliminator or a 2-wheel drive pulling truck. He said, no doubt, the 2-wheel drive is a fast, wild ride. Look at that.
Almost 289 feet does not surpass Jeff McPherson's 296 mark, but it's not over yet.
Here's another one of those strong East Coast pullers, Brian Nicholson out of Culpeper, Virginia. Been running the scrapper for many, many years. And, Ted, he is one of the top pullers in this part of the country.
Well, that might be because he's running an Alan Johnson motor. That's the same Top Fuel NHRA drag racing star. Alan Johnson, a genius with superchargers. Let's find out how genius he is up here in Pennsylvania as Brian Nicholson tries to go 296 feet. No, way short, 269 feet. Sorry about that. We're not done yet, though. We have a teenager coming up to enter this poll. Stay with us. If you're hungry, they'll accommodate you at the Buck at the Jasper Pulling Series. Ted Jones, Tom McConnell here with you. Brett Kepner's down at the finish line area, and we're ready to go now with the Meat Wagon. You're not going to believe this driver. She's very pretty. Right, Brett Kepner?
Well, Ted, you're looking at the face of the driver that could indeed be the spoiler in the 2-wheel drive class tonight. While her father, Dave Stockett, owns the 1909 C-Cab Ford that she'll be driving, Sabrina Stockett is certainly one of the youngest competitors in this category, but right now one of the winningest. I mean, let's face it, you're leading points down around your home in Maryland, and this is going to be a pretty tough one tonight against the traveling guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of competition. I hope we do good. We're going to try to put a little bit more power into the motor tonight, so we'll see. Give it all she's got.
Now, I would figure that you probably have at least a home court advantage because you've pulled here before, right?
Yeah, we pulled here probably in the 2 times in the last 2 months. I got a second last time I was here, and the time before that I tore the front end off my truck. I landed a little too hard.
Well, the average comes out a little bit better than the second finish. Is there any advantage to this track as far as you being able to pull here before? Is there anything unusual about the surface here?
No, it's just a very good track. They redid the dirt this winter, so it's all clay. It's pretty...
So it'll take the power you can give it.
Oh, yeah. You try to put all you can put on it.
Well, with crew chief Bob Branson's Brad Anderson equipped 572 cubic inch aluminum Chrysler Heavy, Ted, one thing's for sure, if they can put more power to it, it could be the most powerful here.
All right, Brett Kepner, we're ready to find out right now. Sabrina Stockett's lined up. Here she comes.
And Ted, she was talking about that track, and this is one of the most awesome tracks in the country, but it looks like she's got the power to beat it. Ted, I think we might have it. It looks like a full pull. The horn's blowing. Sabrina Stockett is the new leader.
She blew young Jeff McPherson right out of there. So now it's a full pull or nothing. Let's look at exactly how she accomplished that.
It's pretty simple. A lot of horsepower, good driving. She just had everything working perfectly tonight.
What a beautiful and unusual ride. Wheels in the air. Our next puller is what? A funny car? We'll tell you more about that, but Brett is with our new leader.
That was beautiful.
Thanks. It felt great. It just flew out.
Looks like at right about half track, it started moving a little bit to the left, but you kept it in bounds, obviously.
Yeah, it went pretty straight, actually, for here, so I was happy. It's great.
Our new leader is the lady, but look who's going to try and catch her. Is this really a funny car?
Yes, it definitely is. And Richard Rhinesmith's car, or truck, whatever you want to call it, shines good on good horsepower tracks, but the track was a little too good, and he almost goes out of bounds. Let's check out here on the Lucas Oil replay. He had a good run going, but the track was saying, no, 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 Richards, you're going over to the left. He got out of it, got back in. That's what you're seeing it bouncing up and down.
And that's a no-no. When they give you the red flag, you're supposed to shut it down, but he gave it one final effort. Now, a good look inside of one of these pulling trucks with the body up. Here comes Jeff Eichelman.
Ted, it's so much easier to work on those vehicles when you can just push a button and the body flies up. That's why so many guys over the years, and I guess gals too, have gone to the flip-up / funny car style body. They're just so much more simpler to work on things.
He's from right down the road in York, Pennsylvania, an old drag racing stomping grounds where the Super Stock Showdown started. Heidi's Toy on a good pass, but remember, he has to go all the way. He's nowhere near it. 264 feet. So the lady still stands atop the mountain. Our next entry is a very unusual looking entry, and if you think the pulling truck's unusual, wait till you see, well, here's Brett.
Well, Ted, while Don Landis's two-wheel drive machine is neat, the reigning Maryland State two-wheel drive pulling champion has something even neater that you can't see back here in the pits. Let's face it, if you want to go racing in style, you got to have yourself a nice big sleeper or camper or something to live in, right? Well, this is one of the most ingenious things we've seen yet. Behind the family's huge white GMC tractor, you'll see basically an equipment flatbed trailer. But on top of that flatbed up at the front, and a Pico Lestrada tag-along family camper. Now, as you can see, it still has the hitch and the propane tanks and everything else up front, but it's permanently mounted to the front of the flatbed. You can see where the wheels used to be. And this thing, which was actually a pretty big trailer in its day, is now the living quarters, if you will, for the whole pulling family on the road. I would say that this probably cost a little bit less than those $500,000 tow rigs that everybody else uses nowadays.
Ah, American ingenuity at work. We love it, and Don Landis has a very unusual 23 bucket T. Look at the front end of that thing. Looks more like a Jeep.
Ted, earlier today in Bel Air, Maryland, he was the winner. He beat Sabrina Stockett. Can he do it here tonight?
Not that way. Runs out of traction, 266.9 feet, nowhere near the full pull. But speaking of full pulls, here's a guy that could do it.
Very, very good chance at that. Darrell Varner, the #1 truck on the Jasper Pulling Series. You can see Sabrina Stockett looking ever so closely at what's going on at the track. Who will win this? It's going to be determined right now. Sabrina smiling, smiling. She's celebrating. She's won it.
I'll tell you what, folks. The kiss that had never happened before. I'll tell you, get in here. We need the crew chief in here, because anytime you can build horsepower to beat Gary Varner on a track like this, you've accomplished something.
Oh, that motor makes a lot of power. It's pretty easy. It's a tough motor. It's pretty easy to tune.
Of course, let's not forget the driver. I mean, this is a big one.
Yeah, it felt good. It just went down, especially against all these guys. Whew, it's a lot of competition.
It was a lot of competition. As a matter of fact, Jeff McPherson finishing #2 for the second.